We are back to get you set for the Pennzoil 400 on DraftKings. We'll also update our betting card, and then obviously we'll be heading over to the Substack to update the full betting card. So we'll go over all of that. Brian is coming to you live from Las Vegas. He was at the track all day. He has some
Right.
insights, has everything, all on today's Angle of Pursuit podcast.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Brian Twining, live from Las Vegas. You were at Las Vegas Motor Speedway today. You were going to be at the race tomorrow. Obviously, qualifying is in the books. We're back to break it all down from a DraftKings perspective, as well as look at the updated outright odds. You know, we did Atlanta and Daytona the first 2 weeks. So much of what the books do doesn't change between pre-qualifying and post-qualifying. But for this one, it does. The practice is meaningful. Practice is sometimes almost more meaningful than qualifying, showing the long.
We can get into that a little bit too.
We'll talk speeds. We'll talk, who look good, who look bad, who to be excited about, who to not be so excited about, and a couple things off the top. Make sure you're subscribed. aoppodcast.substack.com. You get the green white checkered in your inbox every race day to make your final bets, to update your DFS lineups, to give you a final couple of things to think about before the green flag drops. Make sure you jump in our GridRivals NASCAR league. We've gotten a good amount of people. We appreciate everybody's hopped in there. There's still time. You'll get the lowest score of whoever's in there, so you still have a chance. And the winner gets a $100 gift card to Fanatics. So that's
all for free.
All for free. So no cost for you. Does a little bit to help us. And then if you win, you can win. So appreciate everyone who's done that. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We are one subscriber away from 700. We'd love to get to 1,000 before the end of the season. I mean, hell, if we do it by All-Star break, maybe Brian and I will do a giveaway. So 300 more people, hop on board. 301. Hop on board. We appreciate everybody who's been watching, who's been enjoying the content, who's been leaving questions for us. I noticed some new people jumping in, so that's very cool to see. If you're new to NASCAR betting, and it's, it can be a lot, especially early, don't hesitate to ask questions. Don't hesitate to to pick our brains, because Brian and I were just like you not that long ago. So we've learned a lot over our few years, and we feel like we have a good grasp on kind of how to play this all out. But if you have questions, like somebody asked about Ty Gibbs and kind of expectations, why a lot of people are excited about him this week. But in terms of track performance and history, it really hasn't been there. So kind of being able to explain why that is, and you can leave questions in the comments of these videos. Obviously, we'll get to you as soon as we can. You can also hit us up on Twitter if you want to just DM us or add us on Twitter. We're happy to chat over there. And if we don't have the answer, we have a lot of really smart NASCAR people that are in our circle that we can ping, and professional sports bettors, former bookmakers, smart NASCAR people. So we're happy to get that information for you if we do not have it ourselves. Brian Twining, before we dive in and talk all things DraftKings, what was your takeaway from qualifying and practice? Any big things jump out to you? Anyone that you're a lot more excited about? Where's your head at as we head into race day tomorrow?
Well, Kyle Larson, I mean, in the breath of Thanos, he is inevitable. I mean, dude just unloads great at this track, and he performs great on Sundays here. I got the chance to do a quick little interview with him prior to practice and qualifying, and one of the things I asked him was how excited he was to get past the super speedways, which he actually ran pretty well at, and to get back on tracks that he's really familiar with and really successful. And one of the things that he said that really stood out to me was the fact that they were expecting to be as strong today and this weekend as they were last year. And, I think that was the biggest thing coming into this practice and qualifying session, was what were the Fords and the Toyotas going to look like with their new bodies first time on a 1.5. And, something else that was the wind. Like
Yeah.
the wind gusts were so strong today that a lot of drivers were concerned, especially during qualifying, if they caught a gust correctly, it would push them and they'd have a number better than what their car actually ran. And conversely, if they didn't get that gust of wind, it would make it look as if they were a little bit slower. So there's a lot of things that happened. There's a lot of different ideas about who's going to be good and who isn't after it. And yeah, like I'm excited to look in the DraftKings and then look at the outright board because there's been some significant movement.
Yep. So we'll talk the movement. We'll talk updated odds for the outright market. We'll also update our betting card and post it in the Substack. So if you want the full betting card, make sure you are subscribed over there. It is, once again, completely free. It'll be delivered to you every race day morning. And if you want to just take a peek before you jump in, go ahead and, you can head over there. You don't have to subscribe right away. But if you enjoy the content, if you enjoy what we're doing, and if you want free NASCAR thoughts to your inbox every race day, make sure you are subscribed over there. So Brian, let's jump in and we can talk about kind of everything you saw out there, what we expect to see, and all that good stuff over on DraftKings. So Kyle Larson, 11,000 is the most expensive driver, starting second. As you mentioned, a total rocket ship, was really good here last year. This is where he thrives. He is excited to be back. I'm curious to see kind of, as you mentioned, if we get a little less wind tomorrow, maybe. Do you know what the expectations are in terms of wind tomorrow?
Yeah, so tonight it's actually dying down pretty substantially. So tomorrow should be a lot more tempered in terms of the wind and the wind gusts in particular. That's supposed to stop. So it's going to be more sustained type stuff, which will allow drivers to kind of plan and set up accordingly, as opposed to when you get those crazy wind gusts, like there's nothing you can do to your car. They were, asking multiple guys about this. They basically said there is nothing that you can do to prepare for that type of stuff.
Yep. Denny Hamlin starting 28th at 10.7. Larson's teammate, William Byron, starting 4th, 10.5. Yeah, and we'll talk about him when we look over at the betting odds, because the difference between Larson and Byron and the difference between their prices, something doesn't match. And then we have the two Penske guys, Blaney at 10.2 and Logano at 10 even. And we talk about the NASCAR betting preview show on here a lot. There's a bunch of really smart people over there, talking NASCAR betting each and every Wednesday live on YouTube, on Twitter Spaces. They seem to have some pessimism for Fords in general in the Penske garage. And I know we were, a lot more optimistic. Obviously last year didn't go well, but I don't know that was necessarily that was seemed more like an outlier than kind of a path or a repetition, something that we should expect to continue. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So I'm kind of going back and figuring that out. Obviously, Logano pulls it today, and we can talk a little bit about him because obviously had the one lap speed. Some concerns about maybe long run speed and kind of what that garage showed in practice. So I guess let's start there in terms of expectations for tomorrow. Do we expect kind of an average run for those guys, or do we think they have some of the speed they showed today and could be contenders, when we're coming down to the green white checker at the end of the race?
Well, I think first of all, it's really important to look at the fact that you have two Penske guys that put it on the front two rows. Here, you got Logano putting on pole, and you have Austin Cindric, who put together another nice qualifying.
I'm so mad at Cindric. He had the car to put it on pole. I had the bet 16-1.
I bet it too while I was here in Vegas
such a dumb move, and it missed.
I was pretty disappointed.
He was the only one that I really felt like watching, kind of where the stuff was lining up, could actually compete with Logano to put it on the pole.
Well, also too, just value wise, when you're looking at qualifying bets, I have a hard time betting anything inside 10-1. I would never bet that. So, but looking at practice data, it was really interesting to me to see that Joey Logano actually had worse splits than his teammate Ryan Blaney, who I have come around on. We'll talk more about him. But Logano he was off about a tenth to Ryan Blaney on 5, 10, 15 lap splits. Like he just didn't have the speed there. But part of me thinks maybe they because they made some significant adjustments before qualifying. He acknowledged that in his pole press conference. And then he also acknowledged the fact that they still have some things to work on tonight to make sure that they don't have a repeat performance of last spring where he put it on pole and wound up finishing dead last because he wrecked. So if anybody in the garage is going to be able to take a car like this and figure it out the night before with the minimal amount of like stuff they're actually able to do to the car and, compete with the HMS guys, I would not put it past Logano. Like, he is too good of a driver, especially at this track where he has multiple wins, 3 wins in Las Vegas. So it's not like he's just some slouch here. It's why I didn't understand the pre-flop odds of 20-1, 18-1. That's why I was all over that. I bet it multiple times. Of course, he's definitely not going to win because I'm holding Logano outright tickets. But like when you look at Vegas too, and you see that the last 3 or 4 years, like we're talking about race guys that have led 100 plus laps. So you're going to need a dominator here. And if anybody is going to be able to figure something out to compete with those guys, I would not put it past Logano.
Yeah, and like if you look at his numbers, like obviously the last 2 years, not last year he, like you mentioned, pulled it, but then had an incident and finished 36th. And then when they came back in October, was kind of a mid-pack guy, not that great of a run. But before that, October of 2022. After stage 2, he was in the top 10. 2021, after stage 1, after stage 2, he's in the top 10. Like, he's been a guy that's been in contention in a lot of these. Obviously, his final results have been very boom bust, but something to think about. It's also interesting that Cindric and Logano's were able to put it so close to the front row while Blaney wasn't. And a lot of times these garages, especially when they have multiple cars, are a little more comfortable, especially when it's one driver, setting one up for race trim and one up for practice or for qualifying. Because if you go look at the 10 and 15, 20 laps, not a lot of people ran 20 laps. I think there was 9 drivers who made it that far.
Yeah, very limited.
But Blaney went 19th in 5 lap, 10th in 10 lap, 8th in 15, and then 3rd in 20. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the most important part of his splits is not just the overall speed of them. It's the limited amount of fall off you saw between each 5 lap increment. Like we're talking a tenth or so, or maybe a little bit less than a tenth. So clearly they figured out something to where they could limit the amount of fall off during these longer runs. And we talked about that at the end of the year with Blaney. Of the Penske guys, he seemed to be the only one that figured out some semblance of long run speed at these 1.5. And we even saw it last spring where he finished outside the top 10 just like Logano, but late in the race, he started coming on a little bit. So Blaney, for me, of these 10K and above guys, I think he's my favorite play outside of Kyle Larson. I can't get too involved with Joey Logano because he'll just burn me. He's my antithesis of favorite.
Yeah, I would say I like the Logano Blaney combo. If you trust Penske and you think the Fords can be strong, obviously you get a early dominator. And when we talked about, from a betting perspective, now we need to talk about from DraftKings with Atlanta and with Daytona and Atlanta, not quite as much, but still a good amount. You want those back markers. You want guys that are going to move forward. Now at the 1.5 miles, you need a dominator, potentially a double dominator, and then maybe some mid-pack guys, and then some guys that can move up from the back. So it's instead of one maybe guy in the 15s and then 8 everybody else in the 25 to 40. You need to mix in more guys. So it's I would say at least 1 dominator, potentially 2, 3 mid-pack guys, and then depending on how you do it, probably 2 more guys that you think could make up some serious ground from the back, and then obviously you can adjust accordingly. I also like doing the Byron Larson thing. I know it's 200 guys, but we could easily get to into the end of the race on Sunday, and those two guys are fighting for the win, and both have dominated the race.
Definitely.
Had a bunch of laps, had a bunch of fastest laps. And we could talk about their teammates and kind of stuff as we go as well. Let's talk 9K. Chase Elliott starting 11th. Kyle Busch starting 21st. Christopher Bell, ring it, 9,500. Martin Truex, 9,300. Our boy Ross Chastain starting 20th, 9,100. Talk to me about the 9K range and expectations for Chastain on Sunday.
Yeah, so it was really interesting to see that the two fastest guys overall in terms of one lap speed in practice, both Ross Chastain and Noah Gragson, looked like absolute dog crap in their qualifying runs. But we talked about this, and I cautioned this to somebody that commented on our video about Chastain getting too involved with him this early, like too much action, is that he doesn't traditionally qualify well. That's just kind of known for him. And I think it's really important to remember last week going into Atlanta, one of the things that he commented on was setting the car up for handling, not speed in qualifying. And I suspect there's a possibility that that's what came here. He didn't run 10, 15 lap runs during practice, so it's not like we got to see what they were testing. So I still like Chastain. I love him in the top 10 market. He is too good at this track to avoid. And I mean, starting 20th, 9,100 for a guy that is going to compete for a top 10, potentially top 5, I think is a great play.
Yep, and his number got a little bit shorter. Obviously, didn't move a ton, but if the books were not as optimistic as they seem to be, or at least holding enough money where they have to be, they could have easily ballooned his number out, try to get a little more money. But they clearly are happy with where they're sitting and have decent expectations. The Toyotas, Martin Truex, Christopher Bell, are both kind of interesting. I think Bell could be really good. Interesting to see how he runs. I probably should be more optimistic on Truex just because how good he's been here, but it's just like,
yeah, but one old guy retired and another guy takes his place in terms of Mr. Consistent 5th through 10th. Yeah. And to me, that's what we're getting out of Martin Truex Jr. right now, especially at Las Vegas, where he's placing in between 7th and 10th, like every single year. He just doesn't have that top 5, top 3 car to where he can potentially win. So, like, for me, he's basically starting where he is normal finishing results. So, I mean, what are you getting out of him at $9,300, knowing he probably is not going to be competing inside the top 3, top 5? I mean, you're getting like 2 or 3 placement points, and he's definitely not throwing down any fastest laps, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, like, Truex started off really slow, 24th and 5-lap average. Then he got to 16th, 12th, and then all the way up to 8th, but only 9 cars were in 20 laps. So he was pretty slow, and the Toyotas, him and Denny both were kind of very similar in that way. Let's talk the 8K range, because I think this is where things get
favorite.
Yes, there's a lot to get into. Tyler Reddick starting 18th. Bubba Wallace starting 5th, 8,700. Brad K starting 25th at 85. Busher put it inside the top 10, starting 9th. Alex Bowman could be a fun partner with one of the Hendrick guys if you wanted to go Byron or Larson at the top. That is the 8K range. Brian, who is jumping out to you?
We're going to group them together. 2311, folks. They have come to play. Look, of the Toyotas, they were the strongest, and it's not even close. Tyler Reddick had some of the best lap times, some of the best splits during practice. He was the only guy that was anywhere near William Byron and Kyle Larson in fall off and in averages for 10 and 15 lap runs. He didn't run 20, so we didn't get to see that. And then Bubba Wallace was, kind of just behind them there, but with very limited fall off. We're talking less than a tenth, going from 15 to 20. And we know how good Wallace is at these 1.5. He's won at Kansas. He's always competing at Kansas. He put it on pole at Texas, finishing inside the top 3 there. Like, if you're going to try to get frisky with this lineup and try to do a tandem of teammates, and you avoid the HMS and the Penske guys, this is my favorite combination right here, because I think both of these guys have race-winning speed. They're in tremendous cars, And I love them in DFS, putting them together because I think Reddick is going to be competing inside the top 10 fairly quick. And I don't think Bubba Wallace is going to lose track position.
Yep, I agree. And I think Tyler Reddick's, like, his rostership percentage is going to be pretty low. Bubba might be kind of popular, but it depends on what you do at the top. If you do the HMS guys, if you do like a Truex, or you do like any of the, like you do Logano, Blaney, it might be hard to get to Bubba. So I could see him getting a little more squeezed than kind of expectations at this point. But I do think he makes a lot of sense. What are you doing with the RFK guys? Obviously, Buescher starting inside the top 10, and then Keselowski, starting 25th. Are they just a kind of a skip for this range? There's too many other names that are interesting with Bowman right behind them, or do you have interest there?
There's a lot of unknowns with these guys this week, much like unlike the Penske guys. Keselowski he was bad in practice, but I mean, I got a really good taste of probably why he was bad. Brad Keselowski, when he came in prior to practice and qualifying, he was the only guy that decided to sit down, cross his leg, and just chill out as everybody was asking him questions. And, so during practice, like Chris Buescher, he barely got a 5-lap run in. It was actually pretty quick. So I think together, which is probably what they do, they come into these tracks and, like you're saying, they split the setups, they see which one, they take data from each other, and that's how they go about their business for Sunday. Keselowski is still somebody I think that will probably be fighting for a top 10 position. I don't have any action on him just because the number didn't dictate it early on in the week. So I don't hate if you go there, but like for me, Christopher Buescher, I just don't know if he's going to move up enough.
Yeah.
There's just too much uncertainty with him in terms of track history and recency bias, which is going against everything I talked about with Penske, but at least with their garage, like Logano and Blaney, we know they've performed really well at these tracks.
Yeah, I feel like best case scenario, he's like 5th. Like, I don't think 7th through 12th is kind of where I expect him to finish, and he could obviously do much worse than that. So the risk versus the reward isn't really there. So it makes sense to kind of just bypass them kind of as a tandem for me. Let's talk the 7K. We have Daniel Suarez, obviously won last week, starting 16th. Ty Gibbs starting 8th. Eric Jones, 22nd. Michael McDowell starting 12th. My guy Austin Cindric starting 3rd. 7K. If you want a double dominator, little Logano Cindric action.
Look, betting markets, I don't hate still jumping on the Austin Cindric train, but I don't think we've seen enough out of him at this track type to try to hope that he's going to be the dominator. Unlike we had talked about with Michael McDowell last week in Atlanta, like taking the chance and taking him from the pole because of the speed that they've shown. Yeah, he looked great in qualifying, but practice results were so-so, and he just doesn't have the track history.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And speaking of McDowell, front row, as now that they're a tier 1 Ford team, I think we're going to see some better performances just kind of in general with them.
Yeah, because I think the step up with speed, like you need speed in your cars.
Yeah, and the parts and the sim time and all that stuff, they were talking about that on the broadcast today. Don't hate it. Probably not really he's probably more of a bet than a DraftKings play, at least at this point. But it's kind of interesting. And then we'll talk 6K, where we have Austin Dillon, John Hunter, Ricky Stenhouse, Chase Briscoe, Corey LaJoie, and Noah Gragson and Josh Berry, and then Ryan Preece. So the SHR guys rounding out the 6K range. Do we just put all the SHR guys in, or how do you want to do this?
Look, I'm still not optimistic on really any of them. I mean, Briscoe, you cannot trust him to start from 6th and maintain that or move up. I mean, if you're in the narrative business, Spire Motorsports has been on an absolute roll in the lower series. I mean, winning all 3 truck races. I don't mind taking LaJoie. I think he's going to maintain. I think he could potentially compete for a top 10 because that car looks like it has speed. And, much in the same aspect of the front row guys being a tier 1 team, I think Spire Motorsports purchasing the BJ McLeod charter, and then also expanding out on their facilities and all this stuff, they're definitely taking the steps to become a more competitive team.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think LaJoie is somebody that's going to pop off a little bit this year. He's going to surprise at some tracks that he hasn't traditionally done well. I know it's difficult running mid-pack, like literally starting in the middle of the field here. It's probably going to move down. I mean, your floor is he wrecks out and you get negative points, but your ceiling is probably a top 10. And at 6,300 though, like I don't hate that.
Yeah, I'm a little more. I still am a little optimistic on Gragson. Call me crazy, call me what you want. He was third fastest in 5-lap average. I think he'll be solid on Sunday. I don't expect him to compete for a win, but starting 30th, I think he can absolutely move forward.
As Kyle sneezes, I will make the mention though. Something we saw during the Xfinity race is that you can be really fast when you're the guy up front in clean air, but when you get in dirty air in Las Vegas, like it is hard to pass. And
Logano even mentioned that in his pre or post poll press conference.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the worry for me for somebody like Noah Gragson, who, he's super young in the Cup car. He only has, a handful of runs in this vehicle. Starting 30th, he's got a lot of traffic to maneuver through to even be able to realize the speed that he showed during practice. So I'm worried about somebody like him, but the potential's there for a top 20.
Yeah. Give me a top 20 for a guy starting 30th who's 6K. I'm happy with that. I still think a top 10 is possible. I don't know that it's likely, but it's definitely possible. Round out the rest of the field. We have Gilliland, Hocevar, Zane Smith, Daniel Hemrick, Harrison Burton, Justin Haley, Derek Kraus, Kaz Gralla, and JJ Yaley. Anybody below 6K that you're even willing to maybe it's not like a pound the table situation, but it's like it's like taking a shot with a chaser. Like you can make it happen. It's okay.
I mean, we're literally talking about guys who's going to be the last one to be lapped of the drivers in this range. Like Hocevar, you're not touching at 14th because he's probably moving backwards. I don't hate the Gilliland, considering where he's starting and knowing that the level up that front row has taken. I don't hate that. Priest didn't even get to run because he kind of wrecked his car. So I think if you think somebody like Briscoe or Gragson is going to have speed, I think Priest makes sense starting at the back of the field as long as he can get past the absolute back markers quickly, because Kyle Larson and friends are going to be coming fast within the first 15, 20 laps. I think we'll see pretty close.
Yeah, Harrison Burton is sort of interesting. I feel like he's done pretty well here in previous runs, but ultimately not had good results. There was something clearly wrong because they kept coming in and didn't even run very many laps in practice, but was able to put a decent run together in qualifying, and maybe there's some optimism they can get it figured out tonight. And obviously they have a connection with the Wood brothers do with the Penske garage. So if Logano and Blaney and those guys have some stuff they're figuring out and you trust that, maybe Harrison Burton makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah, and I think, Burton, he's normally around that 20 mark. So, I mean, at $5,400, if you could somehow crack a top 20 out of him, you're, popping champagne bottles.
Yep. And Justin Haley, I used to like him when he rode with Colleague, but now in the Rick Ware, I can't trust him. So that's something else to think about. You may see some good track history or some decent track history with some of these back markers, and you go, oh, maybe there's something there. And
way different than super speedways.
Very, very different ride, very different vehicle.
Yeah.
Very different thoughts. So Brian, we'll build 2 lineups tonight. We'll go ahead and get started here. Do we want to start a Larson and or Byron lineup? Do you want to get to the Penske garage, or do you want to go somewhere else?
Let's start it off with the 2 favorites and see how we can build it. Larson and Byron.
Okay. So obviously, going with 2 guys above 10.5, we're going to have to find some value, but I don't think it's crazy to think about. Like I said, I like Gregson a little bit. You're in a little bit more on LaJoy.
I think let's go ahead and put Gregson. Like I said, if he could get us a top 20,
yeah,
I'm good there, because the hope is with Byron and Larson, you're getting, 3/4 of the laps led essentially, and a ton of fastest laps.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll make up for whatever you're missing from a guy who's starting near the back, whose floor is capped because of the fact that he is already starting back there.
All right. So the question is, what other potential values do you want to try and squeeze in? Do we want, like, Corey LaJoy is interesting. You made some good points, but he could also be very popular. But maybe since we're doing Larson and Byron and Gregson, that could be unique enough where we can get in some chalk donkeys and be fine.
Yeah, I think on that note, like, what about Gilliland?
I'm good with that too.
I mean, just overall speed in the car, I think will make for past performances.
So we can go. We have our two dominators, so we don't want to go there. I think we need another mid-pack guy. Like, I don't hate Chris Bell. I mean, you're in on Chastain, that starting 20th could be interesting at 9,100.
What if you punt on LaJoy?
Then we're at the 8K range, and maybe we go to like a 7. So we could do like a Bowman and like a Suarez or Eric Jones, or we could do like Cindric and.
Oh, I don't know about that. I was gonna say, like, if we want to go like Chevy heavy,
Chevy heavy, I like it.
Ross the Boss here at 20th,
and that leaves us 7,300. So we have to go McDowell, Cindric, Austin Dillon, John Hunter. Let's see, 7,300, the best option in terms of projections. Probably Nemechek, but it looks like he's going to be popular.
I mean, have to account for the fact, what if John Hunter Nemechek gets a little bit too wild tonight in Vegas?
Yeah.
After winning the Xfinity race.
He is truly an animal. I mean, we could do the Ryan Preece thing, but then that's another back marker. I don't know that we necessarily want to go there.
Well, I mean, that's it. Hey, you're talking.
We can just do the Corey LaJoy thing too. If we both like LaJoy, he's a mid-pack guy.
I mean, he's not going to be rostered very, very heavily.
LaJoy?
Yeah, right.
Based on the projections that I'm looking at, it looks like he's going to be pretty popular.
Starting 17th at a 1.5 with his history.
Could be. I mean, could be off, but I think it looks like he'll be one of the more popular options. But maybe these projections aren't very good. I should copy all this stuff down and double check it after the races and try and get some ideas of how it's doing.
I mean, who else was pretty fast in splits? Zane Smith. But being a rookie, I'm, again, skeptical. In dirty air.
Yeah. But he is starting 24th. I don't think we have to dive that far down. Like,
Okay, so let me just stop us here. The only worry about a lineup like this, we're basically banking on both William Byron and Kyle Larson potentially winning the race, and then hoping Chastain gets up to the front. So we really have 3 potential winners.
Yeah. Do you see anyone else in the 7K that you think could even contend for a win?
I mean, we talked about Bowman early in the week. So he's 8,100. So I mean, we'd have to cut salary somewhere.
We could do Bowman, and that gives us 83. So we could do Suarez or Gibbs or Eric Jones, Austin Dillon, or kind of in this range here. 83.
I feel like they're like in their spots that they're going to compete to finish in,
What about Suarez? If we're going to do we took, what's his name out? But if we like Chastain, Suarez was really good last week. Obviously, different race. What was he in practice? He was okay. He was kind of a mid-pack guy. But he fits into our Chevy heavy.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I would probably rather have Daniel Suarez than Corey LaJoie.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be a fraction of the ownership. So let's do that.
Yeah. So you're leveraging a little bit of ownership there.
Save that. Oh,
that's gross. The two non-Chevys are freaking Noah Gragson and Todd Gilliland.
What's going on here?
All right, Kyle broke his.
I clearly did. Let's open. Oh, it logged me out for some reason.
That's all right. We have video proof here of what that lineup was.
Oh my goodness!
You gotta love DraftKings, folks.
I just want to build a second lineup. Jesus Christ! It's funny that I was logged in, I was looking at everything, and then it's like, actually, you have logged out. Congratulations. All right, there we go. Create a lineup, NASCAR Cup. All right. So now we're going to do the Penske Garage. Boom, boom. 7,400. Where do we want to... I mean, we could do Chastain and Suarez here. We could...
Look, because we didn't... If we're not going to build a third lineup, I think this is the perfect opportunity to include the 2311 boys.
Okay. We could also do that as a third lineup because... And then we build more of a balanced build because I don't...
Yeah.
I mean, if we put both of them in, then we're...
Oh, yeah, then we're really handicapping ourselves.
Yeah, so let's build... we'll build one more after this, do more of a balanced build.
Okay.
So,
so is this going to be Mustangs?
Probably.
Yikes.
At least we don't have to necessarily go all in on the Mustangs. We could do a Penske thing. We could even do the if we trust Penske, we could do the where's that fool at? Harrison.
Oh, Cindric? Oh, Burton. Yeah, I know.
We could do Cindric as a secondary dominator, and he's cheap. But that is all.
Though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind Burton. I wouldn't put all three Penske guys in there.
Do you want to do Priest or Barry or Gragson? Or even Gilliland? Or I guess what do we have? 81. So we could kind of get into the 8K range. We could do a Bowman thing. I think
if we're gonna go Penske, let's just go old school Penske. Put Brad Keselowski.
Oh, okay. I don't hate that.
And then I think here we gotta dive into the low sevens.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out low sevens, high sixes I think is where we need to be. Eric Jones, improved legacy. This isn't traditionally a spot where he does amazing.
We didn't put LaJoie in the other lineup, did we?
We did not. So we could do him. That makes sense.
Let's put him in there because then it frees up a lot of cap.
And then so we could do Chastain. We could do Red Dog. We could do Bowman.
I mean, think about this. Christopher Bell came into the week with some of the shortest odds, and I think some people may be down on him. I mean, he's probably going to be around the 30%, I would think, because he's been fast here. He's been good.
Yeah, I feel like he's an easy guy to skip over because he's not like that far forward, but he's also not.
Yeah, exactly.
In a good, like a super move spot. He's in a Toyota, which we're still a little. And like you could get to Truex, who's cheaper. You can get to Reddick and Bubba, who are cheaper. You can get to. Yeah, I think that's the move. All right, we'll save that.
Here we go, baby.
All right, it's actually saving, which is great. And we will create one more. And this will be Team 2311. Red Dog. Okay. Do we want to stay in this cheaper range? Do we want to go Suarez and Chastain? Do we want to go the Gibby route? Do we want to...
I think we got to find our first cheap dude.
Okay.
and then try to work from there. I think maybe this is the spot where we grab a Ryan Preece or something.
Okay, I'll go with that. Priest is fine.
And then just hope he's like top 25.
Yeah, and honestly, like we can mix in another LaJoy. We can mix, especially since we're starting solo. We can mix in, any of the cheap guys that we've already kind of naturally gravitated towards. I'm happy to run one of them back because it's, still a solid pick, and like Harrison Burton is fine, Gilliland is fine. Let's just see what that does. That gives us 10-2 for our final 2 spots, so we can do a lot.
Good. I mean, you could even put a Larson in here.
I don't hate that. I think that's really fun. And then you just hope that these guys are challenging at the end with Larson, and that still gives us 95. So we could do the Bell thing again. We could do Chastain if you trust him.
Okay, so let's
Bowman.
let's rehash the argument about Watermelon Man. He's never qualified well.
No.
At these tracks, but he always seems to show up and perform extremely good come race day.
He sure does. The other option we have, do you prefer like a Bell, Truex, Chastain, even a Bowman, and then one of the cheap guys, or would you rather go like a Gibbs, Suarez, Jones, Bowman, McDowell, Cindric? Like, I think
look, Kyle Larson's going to be effing incredible here. Like the only way Kyle Larson is going to be competed against is late race restart, like we saw last year with William Byron just being like the best guy coming to restarts. And
I think we go Chastain because then I feel like we have legitimately 4 contenders for the race win, and these could be 4 of the top 7 or 8, 10 drivers, and that still gives us 6,300. We can do the LaJoy thing since we have so much. It's a pretty unique lineup.
I think we got to get different. We're
Josh Berry. We could go Gill. I'm fine with Gilliland. We could do the Zane Smith thing.
Yeah, I think he's starting a little bit too far forward. I mean,
Harrison Burton.
Would you
we
rather?
We could do the Kraus thing.
It's his first time driving.
Yeah.
In the Cup car.
Like he's in a pretty good car, right? What was he driving this week?
I think he's in the Colleague car.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but
you're
Colleague
right.
is.
Yeah, thank you for putting a little reality check into me.
I mean, listen, if AJ Allmendinger couldn't be uber competitive, at least fighting for top 15s, top 10s in a Colleague car, you think Derek Kraus is going to be much better? So no way.
Pick one of Burton, Gilliland, Gragson, or LaJoy. Oh. I don't care which one.
Let's go to Gragson again.
Let's go, Noah. Go get us a top 10 in your home track.
Let's go, buddy.
Done. All right, let's look at the updated betting odds and let's talk through a few things. As I mentioned, Brian and I will have our full betting card on our Substack, aoppodcast.substack.com. Outright market, I currently have Joey Logano at 16-1. I currently have Ross Chastain at 16-1. I currently have Austin Cindric at 150-1. Brian has Chastain at 16, Kyle Busch at 16, Bubba at 22, and Cindric at 15. So, when we
150.
150 rather.
And if you follow me on Twitter, you'll notice I do not have Joey Logano on here. That's because his odds had already plummeted by the time we recorded, and I was not interested in Logano at 14-1.
Yeah.
20 and 18, which it opened at, yes, I was.
All right, so currently Larson plus 330, Byron's at 7, and you can always shop these. There is a little bit better numbers, but Caesars just has one of the cleaner options as we go through. If we find stuff we really like, we'll look for the best prices. Blaney, Bell, Bubba moved. Martin Truex, Chastain's here at 14. So let's talk Larson. We talked a lot about him and kind of expectations. He was like 4.5-1. We're like, But now seeing what we saw, knowing the information that we have, much more optimistic, much more willing to get to 3.5 to 1,
Yep.
as opposed to 4.5, knowing that what we saw today, how much of a rocket ship he is. And then the fact that William Byron is double his odds and looked just as fast, just as incredible. And we saw what happened last year. I think I might add Byron to the outright card.
Yeah, look, William Byron only moving from 9 to 7.
And I think there's better numbers too. I'm pulling up the.
Yeah, he's 8 to 1. I believe it's at BetMGM. Or no, he's 6 to 1 at BetMGM. He's 8 at BetRivers.
Yeah, he's 8.5 at Caesars. Oh wait, that must be old then.
Yeah, that's old.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, Byron at 7. I still like that.
Yeah.
However, Kyle Larson, if you can get it at 3.5, which he is at some books right now, I do not hate betting that. It was also really interesting to hear that Kyle Larson admitted that he was not bothered by the wind at all.
No.
And he said he didn't feel it.
He was so calm in his car when they were interviewing him also. Like, it was insane.
The dude has like an IV of Ritalin in his going into his body. Like, he is just so nonchalant about his stuff and just shows the confidence level that he has at this track. And so I do not hate getting in on that 3.5 to 1 number. And, you know, it's something, if you listen to the Stay Green podcast with Todd Furman and Chris Wormy, they referenced this, that, you know, they said it's probably better to wait on Larson because the number, it can't move much more from where it was at 4.5. And I mean, now you just have actual on-track evidence of this dude is legit here, and you only lost a point. So if you still like Larson, that's a 330 or 350. I don't hate that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna add the 7 to 1 on William Byron. I hit Byron here last year. I can't go without adding him again this year. If you haven't really dove into the outright market yet and you're looking to get involved, you could bet Larson and Byron. I know the numbers aren't as sexy as 20 to 1 or 25 to 1, but come the end of the race, especially at these 1.5-mile tracks, there's so much more predictability, and that's why the prices are what they are.
Yep.
So if you just want 2 tickets that you could legitimately have the winner, I don't hate taking both of those, even at short numbers, putting them in your pocket and knowing that you are like, if the Hendrick guys run as well as we expect them to run, they should absolutely be in the conversation, assuming something nonsensical happens. Assuming nothing nonsensical happens to their cars.
Yeah, I will probably also be adding both of these guys to the card. I got to plan out my units properly to make sure. The other thing to
consider is there is ways also to attack them if you want a little bit more flexibility without going too crazy. You could look at manufacturer props. You could look at, because usually the 3 and 5 and 10 markets are priced, but like top manufacturer usually is a good barometer. You can get some good numbers there. So you may be able to get a buyer in at plus 350, but you have to think that either the Penske Garage or Toyotas are going to be really strong. If you want some of the Penske Garage, but you're worried about the Hendrick guys, top Ford for some of their options is also another way to attack it. Blaney 10 to 1, Bell 10 to 1, Bubba, Reddick, we talked about 23-11. Any of these guys jumping out to you as potential values or potential ads?
Yeah, so the 2 guys I'm going to be adding to the card outside of the HMS dudes, Tyler Reddick and Ryan Blaney. I really liked what I saw in practice in terms of their lack of fall off. I don't really care about what the speed indicated, even though both of them were actually pretty damn good. I think it's important to see that they're able to limit the amount of fall off here. And, I liked Logano early in the week at a long number, and now you're getting the defending NASCAR Cup Series champion at 12 to 1 on a track that he has past successes at before last year when they were just a dumpster fire. And I think last season we could completely throw it out the window.
Yep.
New body
And
style, new setups.
they also
like,
showed as the year went along how much better they could get and how much they figured out and how much improvement we saw. So yeah, they were a
exactly.
completely different car by the end. I like that. Ty Gibbs at 26. I know I didn't add him before because I wanted to save room. Tempted to go there. I have 4 guys right now. I don't know how crazy I want to get on the outright market.
I will say though that the Reddick and Blaney lines, like you can get both of them at 12 over at numerous books. They're posted.
Yeah. So shop it. Find your best number at the options you have. At super speedways, at Dega, at Daytona, at Atlanta, even like Michigan, I feel like you can get a little more crazy with the odds, but at very specific tracks, you really do want to try and narrow your focus if you want. If you're just looking for lottery tickets, you want to throw a few down, like I don't blame anybody, but I don't know that beyond probably Chastain, I'm really wanting to get involved. Like Cindric, where Brian and I are both happy to have him at 150 now that he's 50. But I don't like, if you want to put $5 on it or whatever just to have a piece, like I get it. Penske, especially if you trust Penske Garage, if you're in on Logano and Blaney. But he's still 50-1 for a reason. So like there's, it's a longer shot, but he looked good. I expect him to be at least interesting, but he's still Austin Cindric. And, we saw even when it mattered most just to get on the pole and run one effective lap, he had issues. So, I don't know that I really want to get beyond 14 at Chastain. I think Bubba, Reddick, and Chastain kind of in this range are interesting. I really want to ring the bell, Brian. Like I have a weird bell, but I want to wait because I feel like, and if you want like beyond our newsletter, if you want some more betting content right before the green flag drops, subscribe to Chris Wormy's YouTube channel. I'll put a link in the description. He does a live chat every race day. It's called the pre-race poll. Take a poll, talk some bets. It's really fun, engaging conversation. For those of you who don't know, Chris Wormy's a professional NASCAR gambler. He does the Stay Green podcast with Todd Furman. Like he's a very, very smart person that hopefully we'll be able to have on a couple times this year to pick his brain. I'm wondering what he's going to say tomorrow, and I feel like Christopher Bell might be on the card. And the 11-1 is.
I don't know if he's going to go there again,
You don't
man.
think so?
Christopher Bell is like the Liberty Bell to him. It has a crack.
Yeah, but I feel like he always falls. Like it's kind of his like fallback. He always it's like the girl that you used to date that like you shouldn't date. She's bad for you, but like every so often you just like shoot her a text. You like end up hanging out with her for whatever reason.
I'm going to go out on the limb and
himself.
say that I'm going to go out on the limb and say that Wormy picks the bed shitter to win the race.
How about this? Let's do this. Little show bet.
Okay, let me hear it.
I will say that he picked. So are we gonna say like because at the end he like picks one car to win? So we're
because somebody always asks like who he's picking to win the race.
Yeah. See, I really want to say Christopher Bell.
I'm saying he's picking Kyle Larson. That's what I'm going with.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Larson is too effing good. Like
but he's the bed shitter. He shits the bed.
I know, but I'm the worst when it comes to betting favorites. Like I have a really hard time betting race favorites. I mean, unless it's Max Verstappen who's winning by freaking 20 plus seconds, which is disgusting, by the way. I don't even want to go there. But Kyle Larson is like a different animal.
So Kyle Larson's plus 550. If you think he's going to dominate tomorrow,
you can get him at 6.
Yeah, he's 6 at Superbook. If you want a piece of Kyle Larson, now is the time to grab it because.
We're getting into two straight weeks where he's probably going to be the favorite pretty significantly.
Yeah, and then like in a lot of the playoff races set up amazing for him, and obviously he'll be. By the time we get to Phoenix, he's going to be a very very, very short favorite to win the championship. So your window is abruptly closing, and now is the time to grab it if you want to put a little investment in and have it hold till the championship. Maybe you get a little wiggle room, but I legitimately don't know that you're going to get better than 6-1. So grab it now if you want a piece. Otherwise, you will be waiting. So as a refresher, I have Logano at 16. Not betting it at 8. Brian's not betting at 8. Chastain at 16. I'm fine with 14. I think it's still fine. Austin Cindric at 150. If you want to throw a few bucks on 50-1, I don't, you can ride with us, but not as optimistic as I was at 150. And then I added Byron at 7-1. Brian has a full betting card of outrights. Chastain and KFB at 16, Bubba at 22, and Cindric at 150. Those were all pre-flop. Bet Rivers has Byron at 8.
Yes, and so I will change that for you.
I appreciate you doing that. I will update my odds there. That's why you say to shop it, because especially when you're betting that short of a number, it's always really good.
Oh yeah, you definitely want a point.
Larson at 350, Reddick at 12, and Blaney at 12. Brian, with the odds as they currently sit, is HMS if you had to pick, say, 2 drivers to dive in on the outright market, is it Byron and Larson?
23-11.
Oh, okay.
Tyler Reddick, I think, is going to do what we anticipated he would have done last year at this track, especially in the fall when we came in super optimistic, and then both of them kind of disappointed. So I really do expect Tyler Reddick to be up there in the front, competing for the victory late. Him and Ryan Blaney, I think, will be battling it out with the HMS boys, and so will Bubba Wallace. But at 12-1, I can't really get there. So if you're holding a pre-practice ticket on Bubba Wallace, fantastic. I love it, but I'm not betting 12-1 on Bubba.
So I'm a little more HMS, but you could do the Blaney and Reddick thing if you want to ride with Brian. That's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Make sure you subscribe to our Substack. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Let us know down in the comment who is winning the race on Sunday. Join the GridRivals thing before race day. You still get points even if you're jumping in now. You have a chance to win $100 or $100 gift card from Fanatics. Trying to think what else. I think that's everything.
Subscribe to the newsletter.
Subscribe to the newsletter. Subscribe to the podcast. Join the pre-race poll. Join the NASCAR betting preview. There's so much good content out there.
All free.
It's all free. It's all really good. It's all really informative. And you can become a better each and every week. For Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert. Enjoy the race. Let's cash some tickets, and I'll talk to you next time.